Hi, everyone. I'm Paul with MadCap Software, and we are still working through our video series on print-based output. We've already created several pages and elements, and now we're down to our regular chapters, which is the bulk of your content. And because you're creating topics anyway for your regular content for both for online and print. These are already just kind of established topics, whereas before we were creating these unique special topics to get these different elements in the TOC and the title page and so forth. So we already have, some existing topics, and we will get in there and we'll do a little bit. Most of our work in this video is actually going to be with page layouts and styles and getting it all to come together. Looking at the mock-up that we got from our designer, so this is the table of contents that we just finished. Go down here, and now we're focused on chapters. So let's take a look at this a little bit. So again, these are topics that are going to be used both in online and print. And so a lot of the, probably most of the content is going to be the same. It's just the look is going to be updated a little bit. Now, one of the unique things, of course, about the chapters is you are going to get the auto numbers, and you're not going to get that in the online output. And we put this into its very own topic, but we need to make some adjustments because to the user, when they look at the PDF, it looks like it's part of the same topic, but all we're going to be doing is making sure that there's not a page break, that it's going to just flow from the chapter auto number into this other topic. Okay, so we need to take care of that. And again, you also have the option, if you have a different design, to make the auto number part of your H1. So it might be, just attached to it, right next to it, or it could still be attached to it, but floating up here. And I explained before why we put it into this separate topic, and we'll see the real benefits of that later on. We also have this thing over here, this little Mini-TOC, which is showing you the headings, subheadings in the rest of the chapter. All right, and so this is sort of reminiscent of what we saw in the online output. This thing right here, this is a menu proxy in here, but it functions a lot like a Mini-TOC proxy. And so our designer saw this and thought, okay, let's do the same thing in the mockup. So she gave us this thing right here. So we're going to need to use a proxy to create that and, style it up. And then, for the rest of the content, she's given us just a few pieces in here, the headings, subheadings, the regular text in here, some bullets. And so you're going to have just lots and lots of content. Now, of course, we're not exploring every possible type of content that we could have in here. What'll happen is over time you just add things, and then you'll have to go into your style sheet and say, oh yeah, I need the online to look like this and the print to look like this. So that is one difference from what we've been doing. For the most part in our style sheet, we've been dealing with that print medium because that's what we've been concerned about, these things that are really just used in print. But now we've got this content that's used in online and print. So you put one group of settings in your default medium, and anything you want to override, you do it in your print medium. So we're going to get into that a little bit. And then conditions. So we already set up conditions for online only and print only, just those, kind of broad conditions. And you might have others. So of course and we put those conditions on some things, like we put them on some files and some TOC nodes in an earlier video. You're going to be putting that stuff on content, as well as, maybe on files and folders and things. So you might want to keep some things out of the online and have it in print, and vice versa. And so, yeah, conditions are going to be definitely a part of your chapters. We're not going to really go in and condition a bunch of content because that's sort of a given and you do that anyway as part of, any output that you're creating. And then some other items, common items that you probably would put into your regular topics in your chapters is images and tables and things like that. We've already done a little bit with tables. You saw me create tables really in the page layouts for the footers. And some other things like on the title page. So you can add tables and use table styles and things like that. And then the images, we're going to tackle that separately in a video later on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work through page layout for this, and then we'll get into styles, and that'll be a lot of our work right there. Now, our page layout for our chapters, it actually looks similar to our TOC page layout in here. So because it has the same footer, at least I know that. So I'm going to make a copy of the TOC page layout, and then I'll just rename that one chapters like this. It all really depends on how simple or complex you want to make your page layouts, how different. So, I mean, theoretically, you could just have one page layout for everything if you wanted something very simple. But because we have some uniqueness in these, that's why we have different ones in here. So let's open this guy up in here. And let's go do fit with. So I'm going to rename this internal thing up here too, just so we know this is dealing with chapters. And we got a normal page type. And the margins, we're going to keep those the same. So no problem there. The footer, come down here. Well, we have got table of contents in here. And we're going to do something a little more automated for our chapters. We're going to use heading level, and along with our page number. So I talked about heading levels before, about how those are tied to that MC heading level style property. So I'm going to open up my little mini editor in here. And again, because of that white text on the orange background, it's kind of hard to see what's going on in here, but there's the table of contents. We just typed that in before, but we're going to insert instead a variable. So click here, and I am going to go do this heading variable set. So general is the one that we created. That's just a custom variable set, and that shows up in our project organizer. But these two are they just come with every project. And so you got your system variables and you got heading variables. And we're going to get in here a couple of times for our page layouts. And we want this level 1. And it says that's going to show the first H1 on the page. That's true, but that assumes that the H1 is using that MC heading level property, which is, as you've seen, we've kind of toyed with that a little bit in here. I'm actually, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to go ahead and insert this heading, the level 1, and then I'm going to type a colon in here and a space, and I'm going to insert the heading level, the level 2 for the next one down. And let's highlight that. And we got a space in there. Let's save this. Yeah, I need a space. Oops. Yeah, right there. Okay, so heading level 1, colon, heading level 2, and then our bar, and then our page number. We are just going to keep this on a single normal page. We're not going to add others, first, left, right, empty. If you want to do that, you can explore doing that, but we're just going to keep this guy simple. Going back to our mockup in here, there's a couple of things we want to do in the topic itself and use styles. One is we've got this little horizontal bar here, and then we got our Mini-TOC. And so we're going to focus here on getting this Mini-TOC inserted. So let's just go to a topic that we know is going to be the start of a chapter. And we think, all right, this one, we are anticipating this is going to be the start of a chapter right here. So we want to get this, both the horizontal rule and the Mini-TOC in here. But we only wanted this Mini-TOC to be used in the print output because we already are using that menu proxy for the online output. So if I were to insert the Mini-TOC and not condition it or anything, it would be used in both. One thing that you need to keep in mind if you do try to use a Mini-TOC for both online and print, it functions a little bit differently for the two. For print output, it's absolute, which means if I insert this Mini-TOC proxy after an H1 and I set it to a depth of 4, it's going to show in the Mini-TOC that's generated, it shows headings 2, 3, and 4. If I insert it after an H2, then it shows headings, it'll show headings 3 and 4. The Mini-TOC for online output is actually based on the TOC structure. But there is an option in the target editor where you can have your print output also be based on TOC structure. And we're actually going to get to that later. That's a very, very important option. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to go ahead and enter here, and I'm going to insert a Mini-TOC proxy, insert ribbon, come here, right there. All right, so you can choose the depth, and you can also choose, like we've seen on other proxies, a style class. We're going to leave the depth here at default. You can control the depth, the number of headings under it, either here or in the style sheet. I usually like to do things in the style sheet. We're going to leave this here, and we are going to leave this blank for now because we don't have a style class to select anyway. Click OK, and it adds it underneath. Well, that's not where we want it, but we're going to deal with that. All right, so let's actually go in. So let's style this. I'm going to right-click on this, style class, edit style class, and here it is over on the left. I am going to create a class for this, and we'll just call this one chapter start. Click OK. Now I'm going to switch over here to assorted relevant properties. So this is Flare saying, hey, you selected this style over on the left. These are the properties that we think you're going to be interested in. So I'm just going to scroll down on this and see. So all gray in here, these things are just inherited. Get down here to the border. I don't think I want a border on top of that. I'm going to select 0 for that. And so I'm thinking about this Mini-TOC. All these other ones in here are gray. Now there's the MC-TOC depth. Same thing that you saw when we inserted the proxy, so I can control the depth. And I'm thinking right now, all right, 3 levels. Let's start with that. So I'm thinking about how this thing looks, and it is over on the right side, and it's only a certain amount of width. I'm going to change the width in here to 3 inches. Now, right now, it's just inserted underneath the heading, and I want it positioned over on the right. Now, there's different settings that you can use to get and different methods to get this thing positioned the way you want. I'm going to go in here to all properties, and I'm going to switch over to grouped view. Some of these are in this positioning right there, that positioning group. And so I am going to select, I'm going to try absolute, so I can tell it exactly what I want, where I want this thing positioned. And I don't want it, all the way across the page. I'm going to set this left, this is a margin on here. I'm going to set this left margin to 4 inches. Just push it over there. And I've got its width at 3 inches. Now, this is, I am anticipating what's going to happen now is it's going to push it. It's going to be up at the top. So I'm going to put a top margin on this also. And this, I'm going to say 100 pixels. Now, by using this absolute position, I'm thinking that this might toy with the heading levels that are shown up in the thing. If I just kept this directly under the H1, it would, and I said the TOC depth is 3, then it's going to show me headings 2 and the heading levels 2 and 3, the things that are associated with the MC heading level properties 2 and 3. It's going to show those in there. And this might change that because I've changed the position. We'll find out later when we generate the output and see what we have to do if we like it or what. Now, one other thing that I want to set on this, come back here to set properties, and over in the default medium, I am going to look for MC conditions because I want to set a condition on this because I know I'd never want it to show up in the online output. It is using that menu proxy, which is in a template page. This is being inserted into topics, and I just want it to be print only. The reason I'm setting it over here in the default medium is the online output needs to know about this. If I only set it over here on the right in the print medium, well, it's just going to include it no matter what I set on the conditions. I'm going to click this and I'm going to go select my print only condition on it and save. Now, a broad condition like this, print only, that might work really well if you knew that the chapters or the topics where you inserted that proxy into were always, only going to be in one, PDF output. But say, for example, the topic that I inserted it into, this getting started topic, let's say that makes an appearance in multiple PDFs. And in some, it might be the start of a chapter, and others, it might not be. So I might need to create more narrow conditions. I might need to create a condition that's dedicated to each PDF output. And so then maybe this approach wouldn't work. And I might want to just, when I insert the proxy into the topic, I might want to set one of those more, narrow specific conditions on it. This is only for these PDF outputs. So, but we are going to try this where we are putting the conditions on the style itself so it's automatically set. Now I'm going to come back in here into my topic and I'm going to right click, edit Mini-TOC proxy. I've already set the depth is, we already saw what the default is coming from the style sheet class, chapter start, click OK. And if you're thinking, well, that's not where I placed it with my styles, well, just refresh the page and it will move over there. And you can see the green square on that indicating that the print only condition is set on it. So that's the Mini-TOC, at least the start. And now we're going to move on to the other styles. We started setting up the Mini-TOC and the proxy and the styles. Now, what about the rest of the content that you find in chapters? Well, I went ahead and started adding some additional content into the getting started topic in here, some text and headings, subheadings, bullets, just to give us something to work with. And I also went into the style sheet and added all the settings for these different things, just because there are so many. So we're going to go in there and I will just walk you through that and we'll apply some things. Now, working from the top of the page down first, we've got the chapter auto number. And so we had created earlier the style for that, P chapter number. And I went ahead and added some things. Now, we started off with this auto number format and the MC heading level. I added the background color, that's that orange. The color on that is white, Roboto medium, 14 point, and I gave it a padding top and bottom of 16 point, aligned it in the center, the text in the center, and I made the width 2.5 inches. And if you look down here in the preview, you can see how it looks. So as you're adding the settings in here, if you want to adjust things, just glance down here until you get it looking right. Now that particular style is in this special topic that we created, chapter number. And if I open that, we had already applied, we just had a blank paragraph in there and we applied that style. This is the chapter auto number. So that is how it's going to look. Going back to our style sheet, working our way down, H1. So go up here to that. Now for H1 and most of the other styles that you're going to see in chapters, there are style settings both in the default medium and then we want some in the print medium because those topics are going to be used in both online and print outputs. So there are already some that were set here in the default medium because we started with this project that was set up for online output. But some I overrode in the print medium. So I changed the color to black, the font family to Roboto medium, 27 point. And then coming down here, MC heading level 2. Remember from the diagrams earlier, we are remapping those. So it used to be MC heading level 1. That's what it usually is. I changed it to 2 because that chapter auto number is now going to be the first heading level. And then I also set page break before to avoid. Looking at our mock-up, you can see there's the chapter auto number from that separate topic, and here's our heading 1. And by default, this has a page, it'll put a page break before it. And I don't want this. I want these to be on the same page. That's why I did page break avoid. The next thing on the page is that horizontal rule. So we come down here to HR, and I added chapter start. So it's similar to these others that we've created. What I did on this, background color and border color, there's that orange, height of 5 pixels. Now the margins are different on this one than the other rules. Margin bottom of 75 pixels. So I want a lot of space below it. Margin top of 20 pixels, text align left, width 0.6 inches. Now we just want to insert this. The Mini-TOC proxy was inserted directly after the heading. It may not look like it here because of the way it's positioned, but that's where it was inserted, right after that. And then you get this paragraph in here. So I'm going to click right here, press enter, get on an empty paragraph, come up to insert the rule. Now we want the chapter start rule style, and there it is. Click OK. And there it is. Now you might be looking at that and thinking, well, why is it green? Well, that is because we also set MC conditions, print only setting on that, which I'll show you here in a second. And that's why you're seeing it green there. It's just because the conditions indicators toggled on. So you can toggle it on, off, whatever you want to see, but that's inserted. So let's take a look at that condition setting. So not only did I have all those settings, but over here in the default medium, I have that MC conditions, general print only. And that's the same as that Mini-TOC proxy. So the same things that I said about that apply here. This might work well to have the condition set on the style, but again, if you've got the same topic in multiple PDFs, and sometimes it's the first start of a chapter, sometimes it's not, you might not want to do this. You might want to apply that condition directly on that rule when you insert it into whatever topic. One other thing you might consider doing is you might consider creating a topic template for the topics that are going to be the start of chapters. And that template would include not only the heading, but these other pieces, the horizontal rule, the Mini-TOC proxy. And that way, when you create new topics and you know this is going to be the start of a chapter, you can select that template. It'll have these pieces in place. Otherwise, you can just manually copy or insert the rule and the Mini-TOC proxy into any topics that are going to be the start of chapters. And we are going to have in this video some other topics that are going to be the start of chapters. So later on, I will copy these pieces into those topics as well. Now, let's go back to the style sheet. Working our way down. So H2. Same thing as H1. There are things that are set in the default medium already because we're using this in online output. But over here in the print medium, I changed the font family, Roboto Light, 24 point, and then come down here. So again, the MC heading level is shifting from 2 to 3. On down to H3. This one, same thing as the others. Some things are set in default. This one, font family in the print medium, font family, Roboto Black, 16 point. And this time that I set the MC heading level to 0. Normally it's 3. I did that because our mockup only shows us going down, having a certain number of things in the generated TOC. It only goes down 3 levels. And so anything below that, I changed to 0. And so we also have H4, H5, and H6. So on each one of these, the only thing I changed, because we don't have specs for these in our mockup, the only thing I changed was MC heading level. I changed it to 0 on each one of these. Our mockup also gave us some settings for the regular P style. So coming down to that, selecting it, and again, this is definitely going to be used in both online and print. So some things are set over here, but we want to override some of those in our print medium. So I changed the font family to Roboto Light, 10 point, line height, 13 point, according to the mockup. Now going back to our mockup, we come down here. All right, so heading 3, notice that and the content under it is indented. And so this is actually similar to what I do in my own project. When you get down to the heading 3 level and the content that's under that, I'll have it indented some. And so what I'm going to do here is use a div, create a div, put the indentation on that. And that way, the H3 and any content that I want indented along with that will be wrapped inside that div. So coming back to the style sheet, I created a class of div. I called it subsections. And all I did was put a margin left in 0.75 inches in the print medium. I could have done that over here in the default medium because maybe we also want that indentation in the online output, but we hadn't really decided that. That's it wasn't in the original. And it was only in the print mockup, so I just put it in the print medium. So there's H2, and I also do have this in parentheses. H2 becomes an H3 in PDF. That's going to become clear to you when we get to another video here soon. And then H3 becomes an H4 in PDF. So here's my H3, and I am thinking, okay, all of the content from H3 down to until the next H2 begins, that's the stuff I want indented. And so I'm going to select all of that right there. I'm going to, on my home ribbon, I'm going to click this and select div subsections. That's the style I created. Click OK, and it's all indented. So anything that I add within that will be indented too. And then you get down to H2 and it's back out left. Now, what about our bullet in here, our list of bullets? Well, if we look at our mockup, she's got a bigger font for that than the regular paragraphs. I don't know that I like that. That might be a little strange. I might have a conversation with the graphic designer and say, do we really want that, or should they be the same size? But she gave me this, and so I'm going to go ahead and go with it. And this is going to actually give me an opportunity to demonstrate something else for you that might come up. So back in our style sheet, lists are set. There's a few different styles. There's OL, which is an ordered list or a numbered list. There's UL, which is an unordered list or a bulleted list. And then within those, there are LI. Those are the list items. Well, we're going to set some things on OL and UL. So come over here to OL. Again, this is something that is going to be both an online and print output. It's just using some inherited values here for the default medium. Under print, what I did, I set the font size to 12 point, the line height to 18 point. And down here for UL, I did exactly the same. I set those two. A couple of other things. We have that Mini-TOC proxy in our chapters. And so if we go look at the mockup, you can see the items within that. She's given us some style settings for bottom medium 10 point for this level, which is our level 2, and then level 3, Roboto Light 10 point. So what I did, back in our style sheet, we have under the paragraph style. Remember, we've got these TOC 1, 2, 3, and so on. Well, we also have mini TOC 1, 2, 3, and so on for different levels in a mini TOC. So because I'm dealing with levels 2 and 3, I went to level 2 and I set the Roboto medium 10 point on that one, and then Mini-TOC 3 Roboto Light 10 point, and I indented it, gave it a margin left of 0.25 inches. So those are the styles that we're dealing with, at least now, for our chapters. But of course, there's going to be lots more content that you have in your topics, and you might need to add additional things. Just remember, if it's being used for both online and print, you need to take care of it in the default medium for your online output, and then override in the print medium for your print output. Do you want to come back to our list styles and show you something? Remember, these bulleted items were going to be a larger font, 12 point. Well, if I click in here and you look up here, up in the ribbon, you see 10 point. Well, what's going on here? So that has to do with the fact that when you create lists, by default, Flare will put, you'll not only have your main tag, in this case, UL, and then LI items, but it will also put paragraph tags within that. And so the rule is the style setting that is closest to the content is going to win. So we told Flare to use 10 point for our paragraphs. We told it to use 12 point for UL. And because paragraph is closer to where the actual content is, it's using 10 point. So how do we get around this? Well, a couple of things. Number one is you don't have to have paragraph tags in lists. You can remove it on an individual list item. You could right click the LI and tell it make simple item. And so it takes that paragraph tag out, and now you got the larger font. You can also do it on an entire list, right click on the UL, and then make simple item, and there you go. Now, undo both of those. And the reason why it's good to have paragraph items in lists is so that you can press enter after one of those items and then press your backspace key. And now you can just add a note or any kind of content that you want between these list items. Makes it real easy to do. And there are default settings for this behavior. So if you go to File, Options, and go to the XML Editor tab, and you come down here and you see List. By default, it's going to put paragraph tags in there, but you can make them simple. Now, what if you want to have the paragraph tags in there because you do want to put notes or images or whatever other content between list items, but you want to adhere to your style settings? Well, there's an easy fix for that. And we're going to use something called a complex selector. Back in our style sheet, we're going to come up all the way up here to the top, and you see this section, complex selectors. Expand that. There's already a bunch of stuff in here. It may look really, odd to you, confusing to you. But if you come down, you're going to see something that looks familiar, OL and UL. And it's not just those by themselves, but they're repeated, or they've got both of them in there. They've got some, different configurations here. So what's going on here? These are complex selectors. And for example, this one right here, OL. So what it's allowing you to do is easily specify a setting for nested lists. So you might have an ordered list, a numbered list, and one list nested in another, so that your main list is decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then you have a sub list within that, maybe lower Roman, A, B, C, D. You don't want to have to go in every time you create a list and apply the style. This will do it automatically. So what it's doing is saying, hey, if you've got an OL and there's an OL within it, do whatever. So if your list type, so maybe decimal on your main OL style that's way down here, you say list style type, it's decimal, but maybe you want round bullets. Well, that was for OL, that's numbered. But let's say for UL, you want the disk. And then maybe the second level, you want squares, you want, something else. For OL, the numbered lists, so at the first level, you want decimal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the second level, you want lower alpha. So then you would set that list style type on this one. Okay, hope all that makes sense. The way these are written, these particular kinds of complex selectors are the first style, a space, and then the second one. So what I can do here to take care of our situation is I can create one called OL space P and UL space P. And what that's doing is it's telling it, hey, if you have a paragraph tag within an OL or a UL, then do this thing. So I'm going to quickly create a couple of new classes in here. Select my default mediums and click Add Selector. And right now it's based on the one that I selected. Up until now, we've just been dealing with this section and this section in here as I've been creating classes. Well, now you can expand the advanced options, come in here, and I'm going to replace this second OL with P and click OK. And I'm going to create a second one. And now it's UL, and I'm going to replace the second one with a P, like that. And now I'm going to apply the same settings that I did earlier for the UL, the main UL, and the OL. So for OLP, I have font size 12 point, line height 18 point, come down to ULP, same stuff. Now I go back to my topic, and you can see that the font is bigger and line height is bigger. So those are the main things we wanted to do for our styles in our chapters. Again, as more content comes up, you just deal with those. But for now, we're done with that. And we're pretty much done with our chapters for the time being. So now we can move on to the next video and deal with the next part of our PDF. So I'll see you in that video.